Well, welcome, Gerald Finley. It is so wonderful to see you virtually. And of course, we are so excited to actually see you and hear you in person on February 1st. Um, but I kind of want to start by asking you some things that have been going on in the last year in particular, even during this pandemic. I know
Yeah.
you have a new album out called Proud Songsters that sounds really fascinating to me because I know it's a collection of songs performed by former members of the choir of King's College, Cambridge, which I'm assuming that means you were a member of
Yes.
that
Yes.
infamous choir. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what that experience was like for you. Like, how old were you, and did you know you were part of such a legend when you were part of the choir?
Well, it was actually one of the reasons I crossed the Atlantic. I grew up in Ottawa, Canada, and had a wonderful youth there in a church choir run by called St. Matthew's. It was called, and it was run by a very talented English choir master. And so I had English cathedral music in my sort of all my upbringing. And it was really in my teens when I thought, okay, how do I really make this happen for me a little bit more? And I wanted to be involved somehow in the choral music scene. And I thought, well, the place to go is England. And I was fortunate enough to be able to get a foothold in London at the Royal College of Music. And then immediately it was suggested that I audition for the college. Well, there's many Cambridge and Oxford colleges that have wonderful choirs. And the top of that tree is, I don't hesitate to say, is King's, really. I mean, it's world renowned. It has the annual carol service, of course, broadcast worldwide on Christmas Eve. And so I was very aware of it as a boy because that's what we were all, listening to. So I got a chance to audition for it. And to my absolute astonishment, I got in and spent 3 years there. You only are allowed to spend 3 years in the choir,
Oh, I didn't know that.
as because you are effectively taking a degree at the college and at the university. So everybody's undergraduates, and there's limited places. There's only six, well, they're called choral scholars, but they're just singers. And they're all between the ages of 18 and 22. And I was lucky because I had just reached the maximum age to enter. So I had 3 wonderful years there, under 2 under Philip Ledger, the conductor, and also Stephen Cleobury, who recently retired a couple of years ago and has since sadly passed away. But therefore there's quite an alumni of singers and musicians and otherwise talented people. And what this was designed to do, this album called Proud Songsters, was to celebrate those people currently who have made careers as professional singers following their time in the choir.
Yeah.
So it was an idea to further, if you like, the profile of the college itself. It's undergoing a big development program, as many institutions are now, and we were asked to effectively contribute 1 or 2 pieces to an album, and I'm delighted that really we've had a wonderful response to it, and a lot of interest in the actual idea that we were all singers in the choir. And I have to say that the bonus track on this particular album is my father-in-law and I singing a duet, because my father-in-law was also a choral scholar there in the 50s. So we share a great love and passion for choral music, and when we sang a lovely duet called "Oh Lovely Night."
Oh, how
So
wonderful.
I invite everybody to have a listen to it, because it celebrates English song, and my colleagues are very esteemed in the profession. So it's been a wonderful thing to share
Absolutely.
the opportunity for that.
So at that stage in your life, at that age, did you think you might be more in the choral world rather than
Oh,
singers?
I think perhaps that was the um, I couldn't go any further than King's College, actually,
True. Where
in
do you go from there?
choral music. Um, I did sort of supplement my training as a solo singer thereafter by singing in choirs professionally in and around London and Britain itself. It has a very what I liked very much about the whole organization of the music of the singing life in the UK is that there's a strata. You have you have amateur musicians, and then you have very good amateurs, and then you have very active semi-professionals who may just volunteer for choirs or soloists in their local choral society. At least that's the way it used to be. And
Mhm.
then you have young singers who are starting out, and they are the soloists for choral societies on their every 3 or 4 months concerts. So as a young singer, I was given opportunities to learn all the oratorio and classical concert pieces that require soloists. So my repertoire became extremely uh, rich. By the age of 25, I knew most of Handel's oratorios, most of Haydn, um, just because choral societies were asking for young singers. So my transition away from choral singing was through choral singing in a funny sort of way.
Yeah, yeah.
I stopped being in the back row of the choir and moved to the front pew in the soloist position.
Wonderful. Well, I want to ask you a few other highlights from the last year. First, I have to congratulate you on being nominated for Singer of the Year with the 2021 Opus Classique Awards, which, if people don't know, is Germany's most prestigious classical award. And then I know your recording of Janacek's The Cunning Little Vixen was just recently nominated for a Grammy Award. So congratulations on both of those. Very
Yeah,
exciting.
it's amazing what, as you say, hasn't been happening in the last 2 years, and
Yeah,
suddenly there are these activities which seem to to become focused. Wonderful.
yeah, definitely. And I know since kind of summer and fall, I have to look at my list here. There's so many things, and I know there's more, but you sang in Bluebeard's Castle in London, which sounded like a really interesting production. I know you were called Stunning as Leporello in Royal Opera House's Don Giovanni, sang in Marriage of Figaro in Berlin this fall. You also performed in a concert called Song for Nature at the London Climate Change Festival. And I know these are just some of the things that's kept you busy lately. I'm wondering if you have a personal highlight from 2021, and maybe it's something I didn't even mention, because I know those are just some of the things.
Yeah, well, um, I mean the whole year was a miracle, really. I mean, every time one got the call, yes, I want to, yes, we want to put on something. Usually, it was only about a month's notice, and and in my life, that is just completely unheard of.
Yeah, yeah,
I
it's
was
usually
based at
years ahead.
yeah, I was based at home, and so most of well, many of these things were very much close to home. People were being very inventive. Two further things I would love to share are
Mhm.
was a filmed performance of Bach's St. John Passion, which we did in March of last year. It was with the Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment, and it was a marvelous piece situation because there was no audience. It was just literally a communal act of music making, and
Mhm.
the great thing about the Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment is they don't need a conductor, and
Mhm.
so we did a whole performance just with 12 singers, um, being both chorus and soloists, as Bach would have done,
Mhm.
and really the rehearsals were a communal effort in trying to just bring the music to life. And so that was a very personally satisfying thing to go back to Bach. I mean, I've sung all the way things from Monteverdi all the way to John Adams and Kaya Sariaho, but this was wonderful to go back to Bach, back to my roots. I sang the role of Christus in it, and it was very, very satisfying. And then the other thing, which was a personal highlight, was going to the Salzburg Festival. Again, they managed to somehow again put on a festival, and they had asked me to do a recital there, and some of my great heroes, George London, Cesare Siepi, of course Dietrich Fischer-Dieskau, Hermann Prey, all the great singers have done recitals at Salzburg, and I just felt so kind of amazed that, first of all, it's a beautiful place to go, and also do master classes. I mean, that was the to see the next generation, or perhaps the generation and before that even, coming online, seeing what music is about, what is singing about, what is the great repertoire that they can get their teeth into. I mean, they have huge challenges, and during this particular time, it was wonderful to see, there is energy and willingness to commit to a really difficult career. And I wanted to, I'm always after trying to inspire people to keep at it. They're pretty major talents at the, in their early 20s. And that's exciting. So I feel I get a taste of what's to come.
Well, good. Well, that must have felt so good, especially after this last year, or almost 2 years now of things. Oh,
yeah.
So you obviously perform a lot of opera, but you also do a lot of concert work and recitals. And I'm just curious what the difference is for you in preparing for recital versus opera. I mean, obviously it's very different preparing the music, working on the music ahead of time, but I'm thinking more like in the hours leading up to a recital or an opera performance. Is it different for you?
Well, there's always the nerves about wanting to do one's best, of course. There's always that idea that one probably could have rehearsed more. There's always that sense, have I covered all the bases? There's often just a question of foreseeing what the journey over the hours of performing will be. It's a bit like, I imagine, I don't know, I've never played a competitive sports match, but it's sort of like, okay, well, what's going to happen if the soprano you're singing opposite in an opera is going to turn you upstage suddenly in that moment that you really need to be facing downstage. How will you get out of that situation? Or there may be a myriad of variables. I think it's more likely to be in an opera because you have so many other components over which you have no control.
Right.
So going onto an opera stage is kind of like undertaking a journey that you just accept what's there and you go for it, and you react to your colleagues and to the music making that the conductor is offering, and just go with the circumstance. And actually doing opera is a very good balance to a recital, because in recital one is absolutely trying to fine tune the performances, because they're familiar bits of music over which one has spent a lot of hours being with. And I would say that going into opera is like plunging into a swimming pool and just accepting what the temperature is, whereas doing recital is like preparing your perfect bath. And it's like you know what the temperature should be, what your lighting effect should be, just how long you're going to be able to survive in that. I did a recital at the end of last year when I was unwell. It wasn't COVID, it wasn't anything, it was just a straight ordinary cold. And it was one of those times when I thought, okay, I could cancel this because I can hardly speak, I can hardly make a proper noise. And then I thought, well, actually, I could very much, I have to say that people said I was sounding okay. So if I was subjecting anybody to, but I knew that I was going to be limited in what I was going to be able to do as a singer, because you do need as wide a range of physical abilities as you
Of course.
can muster. But I thought, well, I can do as good a job as I can do under the circumstances. And so it was a really helpful experience. Miserable in the middle of it, I have to say. Why am I doing? It's making people suffer. But the reception at the end was extremely positive, and most people, of course, would say, well, because you didn't say anything, it sounded like you were yourself. So
right, yeah, I'm sure they were thrilled.
And but it's a good way to see how the music responds, even if one is under personal hindrance. And I take that too, as far as you leave your personal life off stage for both opera and recital, but you do bring all your anxieties on stage when you're singing a recital, because there's no one else to turn to.
Well, that's what I was thinking as you were talking. It sounds like you have less control in an opera production because of everyone else, but on the other hand, in a recital, it's all on you and the pianist.
Yes, and indeed, one of the I did a recital a week ago in Prague, and which went extremely well, and I was very happy with it. But it was very disconcerting to have the assigned photographer running up and down the rows, trying to get the best shot during the first three songs that I was singing. And I'm sure he was a huge distraction to the audience, and I just tried to shut him out. But it's just one of those things you can't control. You can't just suddenly stop and go, "Excuse me."
Right. Please leave.
So yeah, no, there are some challenges that even in recital we don't have control over.
I'm sure. Well, I can't tell you how many people still come to me and tell me that your first appearance on Friends of Chamber Music series, which was performing Winterreise in 2014, how it was life-changing, and that those are the words I keep hearing. It truly was one of the highlights of our vocal series, for sure. Your program for us on February 1st is including some stunning, beautiful, amazing songs. I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about how you put the program together, and maybe what's one thing you're hoping our Portland audiences will take away from this program.
Yeah, well, that's a whole lecture, really, an hour-long lecture. I'll try and be as concise as I can be. Really, the thing about preparing a program is, of course, I have to enjoy it as much as I hope an audience enjoys it. So, because you're going to spend a lot of time with this music. And in recent years, I've been trying to come to a situation where, with all the vast repertoire that I know, I mean, I've been so fortunate, really, to cover such a lot of the song repertoire in all languages with the greatest song composers. And what we've been trying to do is in our recent years is to really try and go back onto the repertoire that we've really enjoyed, and feel need a further kind of a more mature viewpoint, or now that I finally learned how to sing, what these songs now can offer from this vantage point in our careers. So the way that I would put together a program is to look at kind of what the main the main offering would be, and then build it around. With the advantage of having had such a huge repertoire, we've been able to take one of the great American composers of recent years, Peter Lieberson, who I got to know initially when I was in Santa Fe, singing an opera by Kaya Sariaho in 2002. And we got talking, and a few years later, the Boston Symphony let me know that Peter Lieberson was being asked to commission a piece with my voice in mind. And this piece happened to be at a time just after his wife, Lorraine Hunt, the great mezzo-soprano, had sadly passed away from cancer. And he was struggling to find his composing talent again. And he turned back to the poems that he had written for her, which is Neruda, and suddenly found, in conjunction with some poetry by Neruda, he got himself involved in a relationship which allowed him to write again, to release him from his composing block. And these songs, they're called Songs of Love and Sorrow, are again 5 sonnets by Neruda, passionate, lovely exuberance about the passion of being in love, of what the imagery that comes from intimate and powerful relationships, and in the end, it celebrates the life, and it celebrates the passing of love, and then simply says, "We will meet again." And for me, that's it's a hugely powerful way to look through this particular time in our lives. And to balance that, of course, I wanted some traditional songs. Schubert, perhaps my favorite 5 Schubert songs. And going back to Hugo Wolf, he was prolific songwriter and was really passionate about the song form. Although he had Wagnerian, he was very much a Wagnerian admirer, and so one will find the density and the kind of complexity of the songs very uplifting. These poems by Eduard Mörike are all little vignettes, little pieces of philosophy, of little encounters, observations of nature. A fantastic group of songs, really representing the finest of the German song repertoire. And then to balance the program with the kind of intensity of all this, we wanted a nice light Shakespeare group, because Shakespeare provides such a huge catalyst really for songwriters, and we decided we would do it all in English and not have any in foreign languages, except our very first Schubert song, which is To Sylvia. So there we have it. We have Shakespeare to start, Shakespeare to finish, and a bit of Cole Porter to get us all dancing at the very end.
Oh, it's going to be a wonderful program. We just can't wait. So before I let you go, I have to ask you a very important question. I read in another interview that you have quite a love for chocolate and are often known to have chocolate brownies backstage. I need to confirm this with you and let you know that Portland has quite a few amazing chocolatiers. So I need to confirm this with you before you get here.
Well, yes, I'm very willing to undertake a brownie tasting. If that's an opportunity that I would have to say, it's normally I like to have the brownie as my kind of my reward, my kind of zenith, my kind of, if all else fails, I have the brownie waiting for me. So, it's a way to keep my motivation very high in moments that may seem a struggle at the time.
I love it, and I totally can relate to that. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us, and we are so looking forward to seeing you soon.
So am I, and just keep the weather stable, and no nasty restrictions. Then we'll be in good shape. I'm really looking forward to coming back and seeing you all again.
Absolutely, and you stay healthy and well, and safe travels. See you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.